Welcome to the Art of Lifting podcast. Today I am joined again by Jasper. I won't make you introduce yourself. I'm sure people will know you. You were on an episode not long ago. Today we wanted to do an episode more tailored towards newer powerlifters, potentially like people getting into powerlifting. Like the uni year is now starting. There'll be a lot of people joining uni clubs. You work as part of a uni club as well, don't you? And I think it's just good to put information out there that will be beneficial to newer powerlifters, not even necessarily people only just starting, but people in their first couple of years. I've been in the sport since 2018. I think I did my first comp, started training probably 2017. When did you start? Around 2020 time?
Well, I was going to start around 2020 and then COVID happened. So I ended up doing my first comp around 2021, but training powerlifting like 2020. Yeah,
so a good 5 years, I'd say. So yeah, we've definitely learned some things from when we started. And probably do things.
Look back at and go, that was stupid.
It wasn't too long ago when we moved house about a year ago, I bought like a proper desktop and everything, and I hadn't had a Windows computer in years. And I found all of my powerlifting programs from like pre-2019 time.
Yeah.
And when I looked through them, I was actually laughing at myself because the volume I thought I could do, like we briefly spoke about it before the call, but I just had this thing in my head that more was better. I was indestructible. I could do anything. I think it's also important to caveat that I was also cutting from 84 to 72 at this time, which was completely stupid of me while working as a full-time personal trainer, teaching classes multiple times a week. And I had it in my head that I could handle, I think I was doing 4 days of squatting a week, 3 days of conventional, or maybe 2 sumo, 1 conventional, and like 4 or 5 bench days a week, every single week, barely any sleep, barely any calories. Funnily enough, I did end up getting hurt, but I really enjoyed looking through those old programs. And yeah, I definitely feel like my style of training and programming has changed a lot in that time. And we also said about potentially speaking through some common myths within programming, powerlifting, accessories, that sort of thing. I think I'll let you talk.
Sorry, yeah. I was going to say, I think the thing that you saying about like doing a lot, like you were doing a lot. I think the thing is people think because I have to start something or because I'm joining something, I have to do a lot of it because that way I'll learn quicker. There's a lot of obsession with doing things as quickly as possible and doing as much of it as possible. But I mean, people aren't indestructible. Even with the conversation we just had just before we start the call, is when people aren't indestructible, you will have a breaking point. It's going to vary for different people, right? It will. A lot of it's a genetic factor or past sport history. But yeah, don't do it too much. The thing is if I look back at some of my old programming, I'm talking really old, it's a lot of high volume stuff, like lots of like sets of exercises, lots of reps. I remember doing like pull squat 10s. Never doing that ever again. That was awful, horrible idea. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. But because I was new to the sport, or I was new to training in that way anyway, of course I'm going to progress. You know what I mean? But over time, the common theme I've noticed with things is the theme I've noticed over the years of programming, especially recently, and we'll probably go into this because it's a big thing I've looked at a lot more recently, is less is more, right? You can actually get away with less. And some people might be listening and go, oh, why would you do that? That's just lazy. It's like, maybe, or, maybe it's just a bit more efficient. Equally, I don't want to spend 4 hours in the gym doing like squat and bench, and then I have to do accessories. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather find a way to do less and get more out of it. And I think that's quite a normal thing. Listen, when you're a uni student and you basically skip half your lectures anyway, and then just sleep and train, you can do whatever you want, right? Whatever you want. Like, life hasn't hit you yet. But I would say for majority of people, especially those with jobs or those who are like didn't go to uni and doing, I don't know, maybe like some sort of work experience or apprenticeship, something where it's like a fixed schedule, right? And you can't just do whatever you want. One of those where you just less is more. Programming now that I look at things, it's more of a not minimalist as if we're doing nothing, but you can get away with a lot less, right? There's a lot of people that you mentioned, did you say you were benching 4 or 5 times a week, right?
I think 5 times a week for a long time, yeah.
So there's 2 big things that have impacted why I barely see 5 times a week now. Number one is the bench depth rule, which don't get me started on that. But the point is, due to the ROM being like larger for pretty much most people can't handle 5 days a week of that large of a ROM. You will just get kind of beat up too much, because the powerlifting movement, they kind of just jam you into really uncomfortable positions that compress you. Now, being compressed is great for powerlifting, but for general life and existence, it's awful. It's a terrible thing. It makes you, it's the reason like you struggle to rotate. I challenge any of you who have powerlifted for like a year and a half or 2 years to try and twist your upper body and see how badly you get stuck, right? I'm not liable if any of you get stuck, right? My point is, you're compressed, right? And you need that variability of movement. But if you're doing so much work, you're going to get more and more compressed and more limited in mobility. Like a common one for powerlifters, other than rotating, is like overhead. Like a lot of powerlifters can't raise their arm fully above their head and put it like kind of past their in line with their head. Like they get stuck. And that I just nowadays are looking at it, and with a lot of the programming I do now, it's more about, cool, we got some comp work, awesome, but let's just actually get you moving in a lot of different ranges of motions and get you strong at it. So that way, by the time you're, 25, 30, 35, 40, you're able to move like a functioning human being, even if you're not powerlifting. Again, it's the obsession with, I have to do as much as possible, and I have to do it as fast as possible. And I think we talked about this in the last episode really briefly, and the idea that it's something to prove. It's always something to prove really quickly, and then they quit after like 2 years, and it's like, you've not really given it a fair enough chance. Like the reason you get good at things, any sport, right? You look at any athlete ever in the world, the only reason they get good at things is because they've done it for a very long period of time, consistently. And to them, I mean, you don't always see that. Like they don't even reflect on that. Be like, yeah, I've done this, because to them it just has become part of normal life. You know what I mean? Yeah. So this is a big thing I always kind of preach and go on about. Is it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I don't care how quickly you can get in a year. I care about longevity wise. How quick can you get through your whole time of either being at uni or being a junior or going into the open, or over a specific time frame. And what's happened is, and we've seen it now because it's all caught up. These are people who have started years ago. The amount of people that have left powerlifting now because they just can't move, and they're playing other sports and things. Like, oh, this is so much more fun. It's like, yeah, because you just had variability. You can do that. You can do that. If you're starting powerlifting, cool, but don't make it your life. Please don't make it your life, because you'll hate it within like a year when things go wrong. Yeah.
That reminds me of when I had Melina on, and because she's now going back to playing rugby more, I believe. And one thing we spoke about was we both miss, like when you're at school and you're doing other sports, like we just miss feeling mobile and feeling agile. And like, let me think, some days I struggle to get up off the floor. I'm not old enough, heavy enough, injured enough to be struggling to get up off the floor. But it's just because I sit at my desk a lot, I power lift, I walk the dog. That's kind of all I do. I'm not doing anything to move my body in any different ways, which is something I really want to focus on kind of now, just to feel more healthy in myself, to be more healthy in myself. And I want to feel like an athlete, not just like a power lifter. I want to feel like an athlete. And I think this is a really random thing that I sometimes think of, but like I watch quite a lot of Russ's YouTube. When I look at the speed Russ gets up off the bench, I can't get off the bench that fast. Like, and that's such a silly thing to notice, but I'm like,
no,
this guy moves like an athlete. Like in his warm-up, he's doing these dynamic movements. I'm like, he's moving like an athlete. Like we should be treating ourselves like athletes, not just stiff powerlifters. Like that, we will last longer in that as well, and we'll have more fun in that and feel better in ourselves. Something else as well that I thought of as you were talking. So I think one of the other reasons, like you said, obviously people think they have to get super strong super quickly, and that's how they have to do it. I think when I started, a big part of that was also that there was like, everyone would tell you that powerlifting long term was really bad for you. Yeah. And like I remember like making a deal with my mum that I would stop powerlifting after juniors because she was so worried about me getting hurt and injured, where actually as the years have gone on, like she does SBD now, like, and she's in her 50s, and actually no, powerlifting, if you're sensible long term, is so good for your body, but you have to do it sensibly. And I think when I started, it was this rush that I had to prove I was really good and like try and earn a GB singlet in my first like few years as a junior. I ended up breaking myself and taking a long break from powerlifting because of that. But had I known what I know now of, no, you can do this sport literally your entire life as long as you're sensible and you want to, I don't think there would have been as much of a rush.
So I'll be blunt and honest. Listen, if you're squatting 400 kilos and pulling 400 kilos, yeah, by the age of 30, you're probably not going to have great joints. I'll be honest with you. You're just not.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of weight to put on a skeleton in any frame. I don't care who you are. But if you're saying I powerlift and it's for fun and, you know, I'm decently strong, yeah, that's got a load of benefits. Joint health, bone density, helps against like osteoporosis when you get older, and like muscular atrophy. Like the idea is that connective tissues and muscles are just kind of like wasting away. Completely gets rid of that. There's another term for it, but I can't remember. It's really good for you because it's just strength training, resistance training. All of that is good for a human body. It's just when you take it to an extreme, right? Like anything, if you you know, marathon run to an extreme and you have horrible shin splints, yeah, you're probably going to get messed up shins. You know what I mean? Like it's just like,
yeah,
it's probably not super comparable, but you know what I mean? Like it is going to impact things. You might get arthritis in your ankles, your joints, and stuff like that. But it is good. And again, it's the fear that I'm going to be snapped up in half. But the interesting you said to me is, or just then is, I really want GB singlet within your first like 3 years, I think you said. And then you ended up getting injured. And it is the big thing for me. I like easy little short phrases that keep things easy in my mind is the more you chase something, the further away it gets.
100%.
Or you're going, I want that GB singlet, I want to win, I want to do this. And you've just started. You're going to go down this way of, oh, the only way to do it is this way and this way and this way and this way. And it has to be in this time frame. And it's like, don't put the time frame on things. That's the first one, because that is exactly where you're going to trip yourself up. Also, if it's a number or a record or a total or something like that, or even a placing, you've got to remember other people are getting stronger who are further ahead than you. So that number's going to change. That total needed to podium is going to change. Stop it. Stop just hunting this one thing, because it's subject to change. And when it does, you're going to eventually realize how out of your depth you are, because it's so much further ahead than you thought. Like, don't get me wrong, there are people that will come into powerlifting maybe when they're starting uni or juniors or whatever, and they've had transference from other sports, and naturally their baseline's going to be higher. Awesome. Don't let that get to your head and now suddenly think you're going to be up there as some of the best. You may see a massive growth in the first year. Awesome. But then you're going to have your first injury, and then you're not really going to progress for a while, and then you're going to wonder what to do. So pacing yourself is really important. And I'm not on about how you pace yourself through a block and manage fatigue. I'm on about in the sense that you can almost get too strong too quick, which sounds like, oh my God, what a terrible problem. But that your joints, like connective tissues and tendons and ligaments, they don't like hypertrophy as much as muscles. So they will be the first things to go. They'll be the first things to go, I don't like this. So sometimes, yeah, you just need to take it slow rather than rushing.
Yeah. And we actually see this with a lot of the, especially juniors that come up and they're like competitive within the open in their first couple of years. Like, obviously they've got great genetics, they have a sporting background 9 times out of 10. Like, there is reasons they're getting that good that quickly, but like you said, their tendons, their ligaments, they're not going to keep up. And most of the time these people do end up getting injured. Like, it isn't uncommon. And I think people forget that, and they just see these people that are super strong, but it's like, no, because a lot of the time they also don't then know how to deal with injury. They don't have the patience because they're so used to this constant progression and just being the best and being really good that they can't cope with doing the basic rehab stuff and taking some time away from that progression, that they just quit because that's easier for them, which is obviously their choice. But I think it's actually just better to just like, I mean, the way I'm progressing, like, I'm very happy in that every year I'm adding 30-40 kilos to my total, roughly, not exactly, like roughly, just from staying healthy, being sensible with my nutrition, like managing my body weight well, and just making smart decisions. Whereas when I was younger, I was like, I have to add 100 kilos every year and then I'll be the best. Like, that's not realistic. Something else that you mentioned as well, I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but it made me think of like the newbie gains thing. You know, like in your first year you might add loads to your total, but it is probably going to then level out. Something that I had a conversation with a few friends about recently, that kind of, when I met them when I was coaching part of the local uni here, and most of them have actually quit powerlifting now, but they had a bit of progression. Obviously, when they first got used to it, technique generally got better and they had like that little spike in their strength, but then it leveled out and they couldn't understand why they weren't getting these constant newbie gains for like the full first year or two. And it's like, well, some people aren't going to get that. And I think there's a misconception that you're always going to have this absolute skyrocket and get to this certain baseline, when actually, let's say you walked in the gym and you could barely bench the bar as a woman, you're benching 50 in your first 6 months just from focusing on technique, starting to build muscle mass, training regularly. it does, like, it's not uncommon to then stall there for a while. And I think that's something that isn't really spoken about, is that beginners can also have a bit of a stall. Like, generally your total is still going to creep up, right? But one lift, maybe two lifts, are probably going to have a bit of a stall at a point. And I don't think a lot of newer lifters know how to deal with that.
So the thing you also just said, I want to put into context. If you go from benching the bar to 50, that's a 150% increase. You know what I mean? Like, we put that into context, that's 150%. If you could add 150% to your bench every year, you probably bench like 300 kilos. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's context of increased rather than just the number on the bar. And then you go, well, that person's benching 60 and I'm not benching 60 and they've been doing it for less time than me. And then you're going down that rabbit hole of just comparison. With newbies, now, I'll be honest, I don't know if you call it a hot take. My view on it is, as a newbie, why are you focusing on a super specific skill and not just getting bigger and stronger generally, muscle mass wise? Because I think that's a really common issue I see, especially in like working with like a uni club, is people will come in and they will, you know, they'll start lifting, they get these great newbie gains, but they don't look at the kind of accessory work. They'll come in, they'll do their squat, their bench, and then they'll chat for like an hour. And then they'll like do their accessories like really half-assed. They're not really pushing them. They're not really progressing them. And then by the end of the year, they're not really that much bigger. Maybe they've got a bit fluffier because they've had to go up a weight class for something. And it's like, okay, but the quality of tissue that you've put on, it's not what's going to make you a better lifter. I think, and so I work with the University of Exeter this year, and I've said to them, I'm going to make 2 club programs for you. One that's more specific, if you want someone who wants to run it more specific, but we're still going to have the accessories, and one for people who are a bit newer to the gym, less specific, because they need more movement variability. But that's also interchangeable. People can just do whatever they want. It's not like a beginner and an advanced, right? It's a do you want to do something a bit more varied? Do you not? Have a go. I don't mind. You're going to benefit from both of them anyway. And I think with powerlifting, the idea of skill has been kind of exaggerated on how much you actually need. Like, I'll give you a prime example, right? So my deadlift, it was the most elusive thing to figure out for so long. And I've got a weird setup now. I've not actually seen anyone else use it. And if I'm wrong, feel free to chime in. But basically, the way I do it is I deadlift twice a week, but not really. So my first day on a Tuesday, I'll do 3 sets of RDLs ascending, and then I'll do one comp top set after, which is, you know, I've not really seen that be done. And then on my primary, I'll have top set and then some ascending back down. Now, the reason that's really weird to me is because I spent ages down that. I need to do 2 times sumo twice a week all the time. I have to do it. I have to keep pushing it. I have to keep strong. I just kept getting injured. My back hurt. My hips hurt. I fell apart. And I was like, well, I'm doing something. Do I just need to add more? And then I just tried only RDLs on the other day, and I was kind of getting stronger, but it was kind of feeling heavy off the floor. Like, I felt like I kind of was forgetting how to deadlift. So we came up with a plan to kind of integrate the two, but it was that still idea that I don't need as much as I think, and that actually doing less made me feel better. So it's the same concept here with kind of newbie lifters. If you're new, there is no reason you should be benching probably more than 3 times a week. And even that's a push. Like, there's some guys now I have that have been lifting for ages who are on 2 times a week progressing, and they bench like 140 to 160.
Well, I now have a very light third bench day, but for the longest time I was only when I benched 120, I was benching twice a week. 2 relatively heavy days, reasonable volume, but probably 4 working sets both days. And yeah, that's when I got to my 120 bench.
Yeah.
And I think the difference probably with me is that I am more of a brute force lifter, but I think that also comes from my background of bodybuilding, pushing my accessories since day one, like before. And I think this is like rewinding a lot here, but where I like had really high volume, and to be fair, I ran it for quite a while. That's probably because when I was 16, I joined the gym. I was doing literally 7 days a week training in the gym, push pull legs on repeat, and I'd be in the gym for 3 hours just basically doing every single exercise I could think of, which is obviously silly, stupid, waste of time in a lot of ways. But I think that then made me a bit more robust when I then went to powerlifting. But even where you said about benching 3 days a week, like, you don't need to do that. When I first started meeting other powerlifters, especially, it was women need loads of volume. Women can recover from loads of volume. You should be benching every single session, every time you're in the gym, which for most people was 5 days a week back then. Where when I look at my program of people now, some of my like lifters that are progressing the fastest are on 3 days a week. And they're not 3 long days either. They're like 3, maybe 2 hour days a week at most, because they have the extra recovery because their life's busy outside the gym. And they feel better going in the gym 3 days a week. Like, they can have a life as well. Powerlifting doesn't become everything. And like, I had one lifter who her bench was stalled at about 52, maybe 55 on a good block. We literally dropped 3 days a week, and within 2 blocks, she's bench 62. And she's not super new either. Like, less is genuinely more, because if you go into the gym less times a week, you're probably also going to enjoy it more, because you're not going to be thinking, oh, I've got to go to the gym tonight, I've got to go to the gym tonight, I've got to go to the gym like every day. You need that time away to almost miss it, if that makes sense.
So my question to you really as well is, like, how much skill do you need? Like, how much skill do you need, right? And I think it's like a programming psyop that everyone has to bench 4 times a week if they want to progress, squat 3 times and deadlift twice. And now people are even discussing deadlifting 3 times. I've not seen many cases where any of that is applicable, unless you are very short in your kind of ranges of motion and where the movements aren't going to fatigue you at all. And it's like it just becomes like a skill thing. But the thing is, if you get really focused or hyper focused on range of motion reduction, yes, there's a skill, but there's limited transference from just getting bigger as well. And you will bottleneck yourself to a point where you would have to do an absurd amount of volume and work that it's just not feasible for like a normal human being with a normal life. Yeah, just my biggest advice to people is just get really, really jacked. Like, really focus on lean muscle tissue. I think you don't need to do as much as you do comp work, because you can make up either volume from accessories, or just getting bigger will objectively make you stronger. Now, it's not super directly one-to-one correlated, but it's highly correlated that a bigger muscle has more potential for strength, right? It has. So knowing that, why would you not just get jacked?
Yeah.
In like, in simple terms, right? I don't get why anyone wouldn't want to, you know what I mean? Like, just for that, because it's actually quite functional, you know what I mean? It makes life quite easy. Carry your shoppings in one trip. Lovely, you know what I mean? So I just think, I think more powerlifters, especially beginners, don't really focus on the power lifts. They'll kind of just fall into place.
Yeah.
The skill of it and like the coordination, like you said, coordination gains, like those people really like skyrocketed. A lot of it is coordination. I'll be honest, a lot of movements. Even when you're like, we'll probably go into this, but with accessory stuff, the reason you progress so fast on certain accessories as well is it's just coordination before you actually start building muscle.
Yeah.
If you get strong really quick, a lot of it is that, because your body has to learn the pathways of like, not least resistance, but like most efficiency. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're squatting, but you kind of shift all over the place. Well, we need time to adapt so we can find out how you can just stay in your midfoot. Or you're deadlifting, but you kind of shift back too early and it causes you to kind of, I don't know, hitch or something. We need to find the movement patterns to keep you more over your midfoot again and just keep you over the bar. But when you first pick up a barbell, I don't know about you, but I've looked back at one video of me deadlifting when I was like, I was like 16, 17, and it's like pulling 50, and it's like the most wide stance, stiff leg. I just look at it, I go, what am I doing? But nowadays, technique's completely different because I've done this for 6 years. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Oh, it's been longer than 6 years. I'm 24, so it's 8 years. There you go. I can't math. So, yeah. So, like, the coordination. And it's a lot of doing the same thing. So, the thing you said as well about... the thing you said about, like, the long-term stuff and you name some things. And they're not new things, nor are they like magic things where you were like, oh, you know, took my nutrition seriously, I pushed my accessories, I got my sleep in, I managed my stress, I go out, get my steps. These sound like really boring things. And don't get me wrong, yes, they're so boring, but they're so necessary. And if you want to be good at something, sometimes you have to just do the boring so consistently that it just becomes like you're kind of numb to it, right? I think the biggest thing that's come to my mind recently with powerlifting is I care less now and I'm better off for it.
Yeah.
Do you kind of get what I mean? In the sense that, like, don't get me wrong, I go into my list, I'm like, I'm happy I'm doing this, like I'm enjoying it, but I don't care enough to get like super upset if something moves kind of, if anything, nowadays I just kind of laugh at it because it's like, there's no point being upset. But I can apply context to a lot of things. And I think with me and my background in coaching, it makes it easier. So I get that. Yeah. So I know a lot of people don't have, they either don't want to learn about it or they don't know it in general, and that's fine. But I don't know, last week I did a lift. I went, oh God, that felt really heavy off the floor. But we've not changed anything. And I went, oh, I had to shift my days all over the place last week. So the last time I hit a deadlift was like 8 days ago. Probably why it feels kind of funky. Brilliant. That was all the panic gone. All the stress gone. Done. So context is really important. This is the thing as well. Like you said, how do newbies deal with plateaus? You'll learn. It's all about learning. That's one. Don't be so like stubborn with it. But just understand that it takes time. There's context. If you're at uni, you're probably going out a lot. That's probably going to impact things. So again, just my mate did a post about this. I can't remember what exactly the terms were, but he basically said you've got to match your expectations to your kind of inputs.
Yes.
So if you're boozing and barely sleeping and you're not hitting your protein and you're sitting on your ass and you're not getting your steps in and you're like, oh, my back hurts. Oh, my strength isn't going up. Oh, I feel really awful. I'm skipping my accessories because I'm too tired for this. And then you don't qualify for bucks, or you don't qualify for nats, or you don't get the total you want. The only person you can complain about or complain at should be yourself, because you're the reason you're there. Whereas if you're constantly locked in, naturally things will just feel better. They will. I'm not saying you're going to progress infinitely better, because you get those people that, you know, they go out all the time and they still progress. Partially it's probably a genetic thing, but I would always say, why would you not take care of your nutrition and stuff like that, just for healthy habits? But those little things, they're like little chips. Like you keep stacking your chips, eventually you're going to build a really, really tall stack. And that really tall stack is going to have your fundamentals and your foundation for you to be strong. Being strong takes time. It does. I mean, we're talking from a position of 8 years and 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, and when we started, we weren't the strongest. I mean, heck, even now, I'm not the strongest, but I enjoy it and I'm still consistently. And also this whole, I haven't progressed. I challenge any of these people to come back to this conversation when they haven't progressed for like a year, right? Yeah. Because I think people see social media and they go, oh my God, these people just progress all the time. No, social media is a highlight reel. That's the start. And the other part is you're not them. They're not you. You've all got different things going on. In the nicest way, right? I've got to phrase this well. You don't care about my lifting in the same way that I don't care about your lifting. But if you hit a PB, I'd be happy for you in the same way that if I hit a PB, you'd be happy for me. How you lift does not impact me in the slightest.
This really reminds me of a friend of mine. Obviously, I won't name her. She's one of my closest friends, and she went through a period, like she's dealt with a lot of like severe injuries, back issues and stuff. And everything else has been really dialed in, but she's just been dealt some cards. She's got some injuries from when she was younger, whatever. And she kind of started hyperfixating on like, if she hit a small PB or something, obviously we were all so happy for her.
Yeah. But
she would get upset almost that other people hadn't noticed because she knew what everyone else lifted, but she knew what everyone else lifted because she was so hyper focused on powerlifting as a whole that it impacted her progress and made it slower anyway. But she essentially just got so wrapped up in this world of powerlifting that we had to be like, no one's paying attention to what you lift, because we're happy when you PB. Obviously, like as close friends, I knew what she lifted generally, but like you kind of said, if you PB, I'll be so happy for you, but I'm not going to have a clue what your PB was before, because I'm not paying that much attention. Like outside of my lifters, I'm not paying that much attention to everyone else's numbers unless you're like my closest friends. I'm happy when I see someone progress and see someone PB. Of course I am, but I'm not studying your numbers enough to know when it's happening unless you publicly say I PB'd today. And I think that's something that a lot of people also get wrapped up in, is I think people think others care a lot more than they do. And linking it back to when you said as well about like, you mentioned rationalizing bad lifts earlier and like bad training sessions, whatever. And I think that just comes with maturity in the sport and time in the sport. But my biggest outlook on this, because over the last few months, like I've had like bad training block after bad training, or what I perceived as bad, they weren't actually bad. And there was one night where I literally just sat in the gym crying. I made my boyfriend load the bar for me because I was like, this is the worst session of my life. And then when I look back, I was like, why was I so emotional around this? Like, I know better, because it wasn't on meet day that it happened. So it doesn't matter. Like, it literally doesn't matter. I'm training for a meet. And obviously it does matter to an extent.
Right, is you care about your lifting enough to be emotional.
Yeah.
So I will always step in and go, hey, listen, like you cried during a session. I'm not going to sit there and go, well, why are you doing that? It's you care. Like you're a human being, you care. Like there's been sessions where I've been really pissed off that it didn't go my way. But it's because I care. It's not because I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really have any other option other than I just care. So yeah. I'll always say, yeah, you probably will have sessions that you're like, God, you know what? This is just taking it out of me. Like this is just taking it out of me. But it's because you care and you want it to go well, and that's fine. But when it doesn't go well, how do you cope? And now we all have, I mean, again, we've been doing this a long time. We all have times where we're like, well, it should have been this, it should have been that. And you get really upset and frustrated. And then 2 days later, you're like, well, why? Why was I being upset about that? You know, what am I doing? But yeah, you have that. But also there's another thing is like, if you're going to compare fully. There are people that would love to be your strength level in position and have your bad sessions. You know what I mean? In the same way that might be some people the same with me, right? But equally, if I PB now, I won't be as ecstatic as I used to be, because it's like it's just become one of those things like, okay, cool, I'm just kind of chipping away. But it doesn't mean I won't celebrate it. But I also won't expect people to be like, oh my God, that was so cool. I'm not expecting anyone to care about my lifting other than the person I pay to care about my lifting. You know what I mean? But I had a conversation with a lifter about this, because after this comp in December, I might mention it last one. I'm going to take a break for a bit because I love powerlifting. It's great, but it really like compressive. It makes you quite tired. I just want a bit of a break just to do some other things. Maybe, like you said, try and be a bit more like of an athlete in general. Maybe start doing things like sprints, things like that, right? And I said this to him. I was like, yeah, so I'm probably gonna stop powerlifting for a bit. He's like, oh, well, how does that impact coaching? I went, what do you mean? He went, well, if you're not powerlifting, how are you gonna coach? I was like, those two things they don't impact, right? But in his mind, his thinking was, if you're not practicing what you're preaching, how can you still preach it? You know what I mean? Like, how can you be up to date? And I went, I think you're thinking that because I powerlift, that's why I coach. Do you know what I mean? And I basically sat down and went, listen, like, unless I had told you that I was stopping, you wouldn't have none the wiser. And it could be summer next year, you've hit a massive PB total, and you go, oh yeah, so how is your training? I go, yeah, great. I stopped powerlifting 6 months ago. And you would have been like, what? Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't directly impact you. The thing is, coaching is my job. So I'm not going to let how I lift impact that. Right? I could be like, I could touch wood, this never happens. I could break a bone and not be able to train for like months, but I'd still coach. Like, it wouldn't impact things. And that's the thing as well. It's like, I said this to him, I was like, my lifting doesn't impact you in the slightest. If I go tomorrow and I max out and I hit a PB, that does not impact you in the slightest. It might just send you a random message that you think you could just randomly go off program and max out. Don't do that, right? Anybody listening, don't do that. But it doesn't impact you. You know what I mean? People live in their own bubbles. Like this, it's like a metaphor for society. Everyone just cares about their own things. They'll pay attention for about 5 seconds and then they'll go straight back to what they were doing. Yeah. They don't care. So learn to celebrate your own wins, I guess, is kind of the lesson from that. Don't kind of bog yourself down. You know what I mean? It's hard because there's a lot of contradicting messages here, because it's care, but don't care so much it ruins your life.
Yeah. I think like with the bad training thing, like care in the moment, of course, because you care about the results, and that's fine. But you do have to find a way to rationalize it and not let it consume you, right? Like, I know for me, like my session that went really badly, the next day I was in a foul mood, like the whole day. And then I was like, why am I, like, it literally does, like, for me, my rationalization is meet day is the day that matters. My last meet, I went 9 for 9. My next meet's not until December. Is it a big deal? Not really in the grand scheme of things. And what I'll say to clients, you know, it's good that you care. And I think after the session, definitely take some time, reflect, let yourself be upset, mad, whatever. But the next day, just be like, just move on. Like, just try and forget about it and move on. Obviously, that's easier said than done. But if you get hung up on all these little details, like, it's just going to make you hate the sport. Like, long term, you're going to burn out. You're going to not enjoy it as much. So, yeah, I think
it's rather mess up now.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's the, where did I see this? I can't remember who said it. But it was like, if I told you were like 50 failures away from like the big win, how quickly would you just make mistakes and fail, right? So just, I think, again, you said something about maturity. Yeah, a big message to people. Sometimes you just have to grow up, as harsh as that sounds. Sometimes it is just about actually physically growing up and not having this we're so back, it's so over mentality, because that's just poor emotional regulation with training. And you will hate lifting, right, doing that. Yeah, failing, it's a perspective thing, and it's easy for me to sit here because I've done it so many times that I can now do that. But failure is just kind of like, take it away as a lesson. Like you said, be annoyed in the moment or be whatever in the moment, emotion wise, that's fine, but kind of like contain it. I did a post on it, like, yeah, you are going to have bad sessions and it's not going to ruin your entire month's progress. One set did not just ruin 5 months of prep. It doesn't work like that, right? Unless you injure yourself, that's a different question, but it doesn't ruin a whole prep. It's not how that works. So why are you making one rep after thousands and thousands seem like the be all and end all? You know what I mean? Like, they're going to happen. You're not going to have phenomenal sessions all the time. No one does that. If they have, they've only been lifting like a week. You know what I mean? So you just need to, part of it is kindness to yourself. Part of it is kind of growing and maturing and learning how to deal with it. But yeah, you're going to fail, but learn the lesson in it. Like, what did I do? It was like All England's. It was just me. I was at the point where I was like, do you know what? Okay, there's no pressure. I can just, end a block. And I remember speaking to a lad in there and I went, I have no business attempting this weight for a double. I'm going to try it anyway, because why not? Surprise, surprise, I failed it. But I wasn't sitting there annoyed. I was just kind of sat there like, I knew what was going into it. Like, I knew, but that awareness has come from time. But even if I had got it, I'd be like, wow, I pulled that out of the bag somehow. You know what I mean? But yeah, like, failing, to me, the idea that I could possibly fail is like, okay, like, so what? You know what I mean?
I think that also, like, that story you just said reminds me as well of like why we got into it in the first place. And I think we talked about this in the last episode. Like, I got into powerlifting because I liked lifting heavy and I liked loading the bar and I liked trying to lift heavy. Like, and a lot of the time before I started powerlifting properly, that ended up in failure. And I think when people get into powerlifting, like, if you get into powerlifting from like a general gym background, which I think, linking back to what we were saying before about like focusing on accessories and stuff when you first start, I think you should learn to love training before you learn to love powerlifting. Like, I think you need to find a love for being in the gym, doing different things before you find a love for SBD, because I think long term you'll get more out of it. But remembering like why you got into the gym in the first place, and I think when people then become hyper focused on the actual sport of powerlifting rather than just enjoying going to the gym and pushing your body, they become so scared of failure that they then almost also become scared to load up. And I remember when I lost my best friend not long into my powerlifting journey, and then I lost another friend a few months later, and I remember being in like this really dark place. I didn't care anymore, and I still trained the whole time, and like training was like my outlet, and this absolutely wasn't healthy, but I almost just didn't care if I failed anymore. And my squat progression in that period, like, I think the day my friend passed away, I literally trained that night and I tripled my 1 rep max, because I just was like, well, I'm going to load up and I don't really care anymore. And it's almost like I had this thing of like no fear, completely like mind blank, whatever. Whereas I also didn't know much about powerlifting back then. Like, I was still pretty new, which doesn't probably help. But it's like I didn't have any fear of failure. And then over time, you get this more and more fear of failing, because it's like everything has to be perfect. I can't fail in training because then I've ruined my training block. I've ruined this, I've ruined that. And it's like, no, failure kind of, obviously you shouldn't be failing all the time in training. And that's not the message I want to give out. But don't be scared to load up. And I think when I stopped being scared to squat heavy and just accepted that the weight will probably feel heavy on my back, but that doesn't mean I can't do it, my lifts continue to progress. And I think that's where my squat strength has just, like, over the years, it has just kind of continued to just steadily grow, because from that horrible period of my life, I kind of learned the lesson of it might feel heavy, it might be scary, but you can still do it. And I've just kind of kept that going on that lift like the whole time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you sharing that because that's quite a big thing.
Didn't mean to share it, to be honest. It just sort of came out.
You're welcome to clip that out.
Trauma dumping. Nah, it's fine.
I mean, it's a shit lesson to learn, but I'll try and take something out of there that's without sounding insensitive.
It's okay. It was a long time ago.
That the idea of kind of like, because you didn't care, the idea of like all fear and worry and doubt and self-negative talk was gone.
Yeah.
That is something that I think will go on that aspect of the idea of people talk themselves out of things, or they'll talk themselves down from going something that they clearly have. And I think this is also a big thing if you're getting into powerlifting. Do it in a social way. Don't just, I mean, you can powerlift on your own if you want, but I would always encourage, especially if you're a uni, join your uni powerlifting club, society, whatever it is, because you're going to have people your ability, people that are ahead of you, all sorts of ability that is going to allow you to kind of be pushed. There was a lad we had last year, and he was going to do, he was at his end of block, and he was going to do like, he did 200 for like a triple. And I was like, oh, mate, that was, you know, I thought he was doing like ascending work or something. I was like, oh, mate, that was really easy. He went, yeah, it's meant to be an 8. And I went, what? And he went, yeah. He's like, that was kind of hard. I was like, what? He went, what do you mean? I was like, jump 10 kilos. Just jump 10 kilos. No, I don't think, I'll save it for another time. I was like, are you meant to push this block really hard? Like, are you meant to? He went, yeah, I think so. Because after this, we're like not doing triples, we're going to like something else. I went, so go up. No, but I don't want to. I was like, no. And then it wasn't just me, it was 6 of us going, so go up. And eventually he did it, and he did the set, and it was like I think it was a 10 kilo like all-time PB.
Yeah.
And, oh wow, I didn't think I had that. I was like, yeah, because you talk yourself down. Don't do that. Just push yourself.
This also makes me think as well of like the downside of RPE for newer lifters, and it's that they really hyper focus. Like, I will generally say to my lifters, it should feel like roughly like an 8, but like if it's a heavy block, it might feel a bit harder than that because it's probably going to be a weight you've not touched before, and you're probably going to be a bit nervous. But just, you know, load up, go heavy, whatever. Don't want you to fail it. There shouldn't be like death grind, but it should be hard. And I think when people hyper focus on RPE from day one, I think they get this thing in their head of, well, if it's an RPE, I have to be able to do 2 reps, and that means it should be relatively comfortable. Like, no, because if you're doing 2 reps, you're literally supposed to be going to the point where you have 2 reps and kind of nothing else. Like, it should be hard. And obviously that doesn't mean load up to everyone listening. Again, you need to, with new powerlifters, I feel like you need to err on the side of caution of don't load up stupidly, but don't be afraid to load up a little bit heavier. And I think the hyper focus on RPE when people are newer, like I've got friends that do it, and their coaches like from day one have been very much prescribing RPE, which is absolutely fine. But I just think for newer lifters, that's not always the best way, because they just overanalyze every set then as well.
I think I'll be real. I'll be so real. I've been doing this for like 5 years. Half the time, I don't even know my RPs. I'm like, damn, that was hard. Don't ask me to give you a number because I don't know. That was just hard, right?
This is the thing for me.
It all just feels kind of shit. But you know what? It's not meant to feel like I'm like walking on air. You know what I mean? So I just go, yeah. Knowing myself for as long as I have, if I really tried, you could probably put like a gun to my head. Probably had like 2 more in there. Or there'll be times when I'm like, yeah, I'm lying if I call that an 8 and it's clearly like a 9. You know what I mean? Yeah. The thing actually that really helps, and I've found transference with, is I would encourage people to do this because you can do it more safely. Take a set to failure on an accessory, ideally a stable one, like a machine press or a hack squat or a pendulum or a hamstring curl or a chest supported row, something like that. Take it to failure because you'll know what difficult feels like. And I mean like actual failure, not like slight discomfort. This is where training with a friend is really important, especially someone who's got gym experience, because they're not going to let you settle for less if they think you've got more. And I'm talking about go to the point where you physically can't do any more.
This makes me think of Dylan Nelson's stories when he posts his bodybuilding work, and he is literally like, and then I see people train with him and I'm like, when I train alone now, I'm like, all right, does it actually look that difficult? No, I can do more. Speaking of the RP thing as well, where you said like you're not the best at like rating your own RPE because this for so long. Coaching myself up until recently, I didn't really think that much about it. Like I'd maybe think, oh, that's probably like a 6, that's probably like a 7, but I didn't have to write it anywhere. I didn't have to explain it to anyone. So when I started with Lewis a few weeks ago, I was like, by the way, like I'm really bad at rating my RPE because also, again, with me thinking I'm indestructible, I think I can do anything. Like if it's a squat and it's an RPE 10, I'll tell you I've got 2 reps left. Probably haven't. Probably going to die if I go for one more. But
I would like to say we are very good coaches. Don't listen to us on this part.
I'm a terrible lifter and athlete. I'm a good coach.
Yeah, ignore this. Sometimes it's just pure. It's just hard. Lifting's just hard sometimes, and we don't always get it right.
Yeah, and also, like you said earlier, how you are as a lifter has nothing to do with how you are as a coach. Like, absolutely not. Like, I've learned a lot from coaching myself.
Yeah.
And I've tried things on myself before implementing with other people potentially and stuff like that. But yeah, no, there is no correlation there. And my lifters know it as well. I do dumb shit in training. I will.
Oh, I've started taking stupid jumps on like deadlifts, and I was like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, to be honest, you shouldn't copy me. Don't copy me. But I can't be asked to load like an extra warm up where I don't need it. I'm clearly warm enough. You know what I mean?
I do the same thing. And some of my lifters see my jumps and they then take crazy jumps. And I'm like, no. And I'll like prescribe them warm ups if they get in the habit of doing these stupid jumps. Yeah. And it's like, just because I'm doing this, I've also been in the sport a lot longer, which is my excuse. But also I am lazy. You're paying me. So I'm going to tell you what you should be doing and you need to listen. Yeah. That's literally what I'm here for. If you coach yourself, do what you want. But yeah, do as I say, not as I do. Like, yeah, absolutely, completely. Yeah. I'm also very aware that we don't have too much time left, and we were going to kind of summarize some myths/lessons, right?
Oh,
and I've been making notes as we go on the few things that we've kind of touched on. So one thing I want to speak about was lift frequency. Obviously, we've already kind of gone on a lot about the myths of you have to bench every day, you have to squat 3 times a week, you have to deadlift 2-3 times a week. Something I do, like especially for conventional pullers, most of my lifters that are conventional pullers deadlift once a week. They might have an RDL or a stiff leg or something as a secondary day, but generally speaking, if their technique is proficient enough, which generally it is unless they're complete beginner, they'll lift once a week. But even if they're complete beginner, this is linking into what you said about coordination and stuff when you first start, like during the gym, which I'm sure you as an in-person trainer, like you noticed this before as well. A lot of people when they start training, they don't have great coordination.
No.
Teaching someone to SBD, brace on their SBD, do it properly when they have barely any coordination in person is hard. Online,
it's awful.
Another level, right? Accessories will teach you coordination. They will teach you how to navigate different muscles within your body, how things should feel. Accessories will do that. They are such a valuable tool when you're new. And I think like you said about you watch like a video back of when you first started deadlifting, and it like anyone when they first start deadlifting is generally going to be terrible. But then as you said that, I thought about it and I was like, actually, to be fair, my oldest videos of my lifts, obviously they weren't like super efficient, whatever, but they weren't actually that bad. And I was thinking about it and I was like, well, I've always played sports anyway, and I was always quite a muscly kid. But when I joined the gym, I probably had 18 months of accessories galore before I even tried to squat. I think I actually learned to squat on a Smith machine, which then I went to a normal squat and I thought I'd be able to match the weight, and I absolutely couldn't.
As much as it gets shamed, I actually think, right, you actually could learn a lot on how to squat through a Smith machine because it's just more stable and it's more fixed position, and you can learn. Now, granted, of course, when you go to a free barbell or free weight barbell, yeah, you are going to be like, whoa, I've got loads of space to move kind of forward and backward here rather than just up and down. But the coordination of actually how to squat, breaking at the knees and hips, bracing will already be there. It's just like you just don't have the kind of training stabilizers on here.
I remember quite clearly the thing I struggled with most when I switched to like a free weight squat it was like my hip flexors and generally just stabilization, right? But the strength carryover happened very quickly. Like within probably a month of barbell squatting, they felt really natural. My technique was decent because I had like, you get the basics from a Smith machine, you then just have to transfer it. It's the same as learning to bench on a chest press machine or like a dumbbell, like then switching to dumbbells or whatever. Like you learn to use the right muscles. You then just have to get used to stabilizing when you go to the free weight.
Look at like take away the apparatus. I guess that's the word we'll use. This is why I think teaching newbies online is I said awful. I don't mean awful. It's just inherently way more difficult, because it's like you've got coordination, but you also don't have someone in person to actually physically help guide them. And also when you're in person, you can see all around them. Whereas I'm just getting like a small snippet of someone who maybe is very new to powerlifting, and it's really hard to see, or they've probably set the camera angle like in a really like low up, or like a really awkward where they're half in the frame, and it's like I can't really see much. I'm very limited here. That's what's awful about it. But the actual like teaching coordination using things like that, like machine chest press, Smith machine, things like that, are great, because from like a anatomy standpoint, you are doing the joint actions. If you do a machine chest press, you are doing horizontal shoulder abduction and adduction, which is basically bringing your arm back and forward away from the midline, right? You add a barbell to that, that's the same motion. You know what I mean? Like the joint action is still the same. The only difference is, like you said, the stabilization. Yeah. This is like a big thing in like the hypertrophy space at the moment. It's like everyone's obsessing with certain movements, and it's like, just look at a joint action. Just simplify. The thing is, less is more, and simplify everything. It's the easiest way to, one, enjoy training, two, not get over analysis paralysis, and three, progress. Because I know people who will literally think themselves out of no progress.
Yeah.
And I used to be one of those people. I'm not saying it as if I didn't know. I used to be that person. And then you get tired of thinking too much, and then you stop caring. And then suddenly, once you've kind of let go of that kind of really like tight squeeze of I have to get everything right and control every variable, it goes, oh, let's just see what happens. I'm tired now. Let's just see what happens. And then suddenly you just explode. Yeah, I mean, probably go into one of the things about myths with accessories, but yeah, what you were saying about coordination, that is the missing piece when teaching someone. But that again just comes with time.
Even like learning to hinge as a complete beginner to the gym, it's just not going to happen. Like, not straight away. It's going to take time. Like, it's a very simple movement once you get the body awareness to do it. But to get the body awareness to do it takes time. And that's something I think a lot of online coaches don't maybe understand if they've never worked with people in person. Like, my sister is a prime example. She's never been sporty. She has the worst coordination of anyone I've ever met. When I used to work in person, she'd book in and train with me, and it was the most stressful hour of my life, because she just has no awareness of what is where on her body. And trying to teach her, because she wants to deadlift, because I deadlifted, she thought it was cool, and I wanted to teach her to. Trying to teach her how to deadlift was so painful, like probably the most painful experience, because she just had no coordination. Whereas had she spent 6 months, maybe not even that long, 3 months, just regularly going to the gym, using the machines, feeling different patterns within her body, learning to feel her hamstrings, like outside of just a bit of a stretch, like learning to feel different muscles engaged, learning to actually feel her glutes engaged, like things like that. Then to teach a hinge, much simpler, so much simpler. But I think a lot of people now, like, the growth of powerlifting is amazing, and obviously I'm so glad at the rate it's growing. But then I think people see it and they're like, well, I'll join the gym and become a powerlifter, which is still great, but they skip that vital part of, okay, well, I need to learn to move my body first, especially if it's someone that's like, if you've just left school, you've probably played sports and stuff anyway, like at least in like core PE or whatever. But if you're getting into powerlifting in uni or in your 20s, you've probably not exercised properly for a while. A lot of the time, you haven't really moved your body outside of just basic walking around, maybe running, whatever. Like, spend that time just getting used to moving your body in certain ways, feeling different muscle groups, learning what muscle groups are, getting the coordination. And then you will make better progress the second you decide, okay, I'll powerlift now, which powerlifting is still doing all of those things. I feel like I should caveat and say.
This is kind of why a lot of my programming now is more shifted away from powerlifting.
Yeah.
And just kind of accessory work. So we'll go over this because it's such a big one, and I do enjoy speaking about it, but people go, you rave on about it all the time. But the amount of lifters I've changed their programming to this, weirdly enough, they feel healthier, right? They feel stronger, and physically they've got bigger. I can see it. My approach to accessories have changed a lot, and I think coaches are very lazy with programming accessories in the sense that they think more is more again. Like the volume is what we need. We need so much more volume. We need like 4 sets of 15. You're going to grow. And it's like, okay, I think I said this in the last episode because I'm getting deja vu here. If I said to you, you could grow from doing a set of 6 and a set of 15, same amount of growth, which one are you more likely to do?
My mind shuts off after 8 reps on everything. I said that to Lewis when we started. I was like, I will, up to 8 reps, I will load up, I will push, I will go crazy. The second it's like 10 or above, I'd get bored. Like, and I will do it, and obviously him prescribing me it, I'm going to do it as best as I can. But if you want me to move load, and I'll still do it with the same efficiency, the same technique, everything, less reps will always work better because it's more fun.
But a great analogy was if you've got what was it? God, I got to get it right now. If you've got 2 shops, one's 5 miles away and one 10 miles away, and they give you both the same thing, which one would you go to? You know what I mean? You go to the one that's 5 miles. And it's the same with this. It's like, it used to be the volume is the main driver of growth and all this stuff. Now, the more we've looked into things, and I'll make this quick because this becomes a whole, I don't want to turn into science-based TikTok lifters because they take it too far. But the basic principle is the things that actually grow muscle aren't what we used to think it was. It's very much the concept of mechanical tension and motor unit recruitment. Now, this is just fancy words for tension through a muscle and the little motor units used to recruit said muscle cells or muscle fibers, sorry. And the only way you can do that is through high output, right? So if you're doing a very high rep set, those earlier reps aren't really going to have a high threshold, like demand and output. So you're just doing, if you do a set 15 to failure, the last 5 reps, 6 reps, probably the one where there's really high demand, especially that last rep, right? So you spent the first 9 reps just kind of going through the motions. Maybe you're getting some like lactic acid buildup and just like things like that. But again, this is the buzzword that everyone uses. You generate a lot of fatigue, and you just it's wasted time. Like for me, ever since I've shifted all of my accessory work to even as low as 4 reps. Hell, the other day by accident I did a set of 2 on tricep extension. It didn't mean to, but I just thought, it is what it is. I'll just lower the weight and do a bit more. But the idea that like those two reps aren't going to grow anything is silly because it's still very high tension through the muscle. So the idea that volume is the big thing, no, the intensity. So how close proximity to failure is the biggest thing, which is a lot of people, they don't push your accessories to failure every now and then. Otherwise, keep 1 rep in the tank and you'll learn to know what that feels like over time. The other thing is just doing too many sets. Like the more sets you do, the less stimulating they are. So your first set will always be the most stimulating, right? You do 1 set of an exercise, you can get the most growth out of it. You do a second set, it kind of diminishes, and then third set diminishes, etc. So I think they did a study and they said the amount of, I can't remember how they measured it, but they did the amount of growth needed to mimic the first set would take an additional 5 sets. So you'd have to do 6 sets to get the same amount of growth. That's a lot of sets. And I don't know how much time you've got in your hands, but I don't, especially with the rest periods you should probably taking so you can actually recover. You're going to spend like 40 minutes on 1 exercise, if not more. And nobody's got the time for that. The reason I say 2 sets, not more volume, but more exposure to mechanical tension. And it's like not pushing. You could do 3 sets if you want. 4 sets is a push, but 3 sets. But frequency, again, if you're doing 1 to 2 sets, 2 to 3 times a week, you're going to grow. I mean, it's that frequency. Less is more, sort of thing. That's the biggest thing. This whole deal with like super slow eccentrics, another kind of myth. Now, this is not me saying slam a bunch of weight around and drop it, because from a muscle building perspective, you don't need super slow eccentrics. For your tendon health, you do, right? You will absolutely mess up a tendon if you just drop like a leg press on you, or if you just slam the pec deck back, or preacher curls, you just slam it down, things like that. If you don't control it, your tendons won't be happy.
I'm really glad you included that, because anytime my lifters send me their accessories, my feedback is slow down.
Yeah.
Like every time, because there's a limit between like you said, you don't need to go like super slow, like tension, whatever. Like my brain's gone. But it's also a good habit to get into of just controlling it. Like, and I think people think it's all about just getting big muscles, big muscles, tendons, ligaments, just general joint health is also important. The more erratic you are moving, like even like your elbows, if you're being really erratic on your rows, your elbows are not going to like you.
It is about, there is a limit, but the thing is you go super slow. For example, we've all done this. We're like, oh, super slow eccentrics, really big stretch on a muscle, then you're really sore the next day. Soreness is not an indicator for growth. And a lot of times it's an indication that you're actually doing a lot too much. Like, I don't really get sore anymore, and my accessory work is still progressing, and these are movements I've done for like months. So there's an evidence that I'm clearly building muscle, right? Pretty much all training in terms of hypertrophy and powerlifting is strength training, in like air quotes, because it's, I pick an exercise, I get strong at it, and because of that I'll get bigger, right? You can't tell me that, you know, squatting 120 versus squatting 220, my legs aren't going to grow in powerlifting senses. But equally, if I'm doing leg extensions with half a stack and then do a full stack, my legs are also still going to grow. You know what I mean? So in terms of training, I think this is the thing, is people focus on progressing their SBD and don't treat their accessories the same. Because of that, that's why they end up small and injury prone. And realistically, I would encourage, and I tell most of my lifters, I care more about how you progress your accessories than your SBD, because if you progress your accessories, the SBD will just kind of fall into place. It usually just falls into place.
You actually just made me think of a conversation I had the other day with my boyfriend. So I've spoken on this podcast multiple times, and everyone always like that I train with thinks it's hilarious with me with my SBD, because even like my super heavy sets, I'm so chill. Like, I'll natter, I'll talk, I'll make jokes, like I won't wear headphones. My accessories, my headphones are in, I don't want to talk to anyone. And I'm like, actually, I get more hyped up for accessories than I do my SBD. And that doesn't mean I try hard. Like, obviously, I try really hard for my heavy sets and stuff, but it's like a whole different thing. And I think, yeah, a whole different mindset. And I thought about it and I was like, I feel like I have such an opposite approach to most powerlifters with like the mindset between the two. But for my SBD, I want to be present. I want to be in a flow state. I want to be calm. I want to hear what's going on around me. I want to know, like, I want to hear my breathing, if that makes sense. Accessories, no. I want my headphones in. I want to just push myself, and I want to get hyped up, and I want to just almost get lost in what I'm doing. Yeah, in a whole different way.
You had Pape on the other day or the other week, and I think he spoke about this. Either that, or I'm just imagining another conversation I had with Ben. But the idea of kind of being calm when lifting, like heavy, because, you know, if you're panicking under a barbell, that ain't gonna help anybody. You know what I mean? And that doesn't help with coordination. So yeah, I to be honest, the way you're describing it doesn't sound backwards. It just sounds like you've grown up. You know what I mean? Like, you go from, oh my god, I need to be the best at this, to I should probably just get jacked and get healthy, and then everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, I also think what you said about we were kind of talking about almost overly controlling movements, right? Oh, like my upper body's always like developed fairly easily in comparison to my lower body anyway, just with how I'm built. But I remember up until probably about 18 months, 2 years ago, so about 6 years into me being in the gym, my lat pull down was probably on 40 kilos for that whole time, because I was adamant that I had to have this form where I could really feel everything and really control the entire time. And if I went any heavier than that, it just wasn't controlled anymore. And then all of a sudden this switch just flicked in my head. And now I lat pull down like 70, 80 kilos, and my back is developing so much better. And I almost was scared to go heavier because it didn't quite feel quite as controlled. But I'd also been doing this movement for how many years? Yeah. It was still going to be controlled enough to lift heavier, load more weight, and get much better results. And my upper body has developed so much quicker from having that switch and not being scared to load up on these things.
So here's also a common myth. People will be like, progressive overload is a sign of growth. Sorry, progressive overload causes growth. It's actually the opposite. If you've grown, you can progressively overload. It's more of an outcome rather than input. So if you come into the gym, again, this can be impacted heavily by programming. You come into the gym, you do, like you said, 40 on the lat pull down. Do it for 10 reps. Cool. Next week, you come in, you do 45 for 10 reps again, right? Your performance has gone up. Therefore, you have probably, unless it's coordination, right, you've probably built muscle. But if you did, next week you did 45 and you only got it for 5 reps, you probably haven't built muscle.
Yeah.
But if you're struggling to progress it, it might be that you're actually doing too much. And this is where that kind of more lower set approach is actually quite important, because again, don't want to get into the science-based TikTok era, but the idea of fatigue is such a big thing that powerlifters and powerlifting coaches neglect. They're like, yeah, well, we'll just tuck in some curls around here. We'll just kind of, that looks about right. Like, chuck that one in there. And it's like, no. Accessories are at least like 50% of your program.
Yeah.
Why are you just kind of throwing it about like it's whatever, like you don't care? You should. This is, if you look at it, listen, you've got squat, you got your bench. We figured out all these ways to make sure you feel good on your primary, you know, good on your SPDs, how to line up your macros, how to line up your blocks and your time to peaks and all this fancy jargon. What about your accessories? You know what I mean? I mean, there's a big thing as well, and I've had debates with a lot of coaches about this, and the idea of like having your RPEs with your accessories be like low. I personally think that's kind of stupid. And this is no disrespect to any of them. I just think it's stupid, because if you are, things like that will detrain really quickly. So if you're not lifting within like 1 to 2 reps in reserve, and you pull it all the way back to like 4 or 5 reps in reserve, you're spending so much time missing quite effective reps. Like there's like a stimulating reps model, which said the last 5 are the most stimulating for growth. If you're doing RP6 accessories, you're missing most of the growth potential. And if you've got a good volume allocation, which is why 1 to 2 sets I'm really big fan of, you never really need to deload.
Yeah.
You never really need to deload the accessories, because you can just progress them. And if you're struggling to progress, yeah, let's look at frequency. Yeah, let's look at how many sets you're doing. Maybe you need to do less or more. Yeah, let's look at how things are impacted by your SPD. Like if you've just done your week 4 SPDs, yeah, your accessory is probably going to suffer a little bit if you're doing it like a leg press afterwards. Again, that's just context and knowing things. That's just being objectively common sense. But accessories, I just don't believe this idea that you need to strip them back and push back, because it just doesn't make, you kind of just wait. It's like the whole thing of like deloading every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
You're applying that same logic to the things. But if I said to you, you need to deload every single 4 weeks for your SPD. Now, granted, we have week 1 stuff like that, but like really pull back so that it's like basically doing nothing. You get that's silly. We've gone past that, right? So I just don't buy it. I don't believe in it. I think you all need to, I say you all, everyone needs to push accessories consistently. And if you're getting pain doing an exercise, don't do it. Simple as. Find something that you can actually, you may not feel it 100%, but you can feel like you're progressing on it. It doesn't cause pain and you enjoy it. That's it.
So my approach with accessories, for most people, obviously everyone's a little bit different, is especially on the lighter weeks of a block, we will push your accessories like near enough to failure across the board, or at least like an RPE8 on most things, right? And then depending on how, like the lifter, so some lifters every week 4 will pull your accessories back, or maybe just do 1 less set. If we're doing 3, we'll do 2. Some isolation stuff we might take out. It depends on the lifter. Some lifters it's every 8th week. Some it's every 12th week, depending on how often we push their heavy SBD, right?
So with
that's
that,
me, I think has worked really well.
So that I agree with, because the goal isn't in that week to grow, it's to prioritize the performance of your SPD. Now that I'll get on board with. Like if I taper now, people will be like, well, then how do you taper if you never, adjust your, because it's different. Because on that week, I don't need you to grow. I need you to be strong. You know what I mean?
But what I think people, I haven't spoken to too many people. I think I had Joe Borenstein on. I think he said that's exactly what he does with his training. I was like, well, it must be right. Look how strong he is. Yeah. But I think it's then, I think when I first started doing it, I did it on myself to start with. And then I had this fear that I wasn't going to recover, because then on my week 1, which is in theory, basically my deload week, well, I'm going to push my accessories again on week 1. So am I then not going to recover? But actually, no, I felt so much better for doing that. And it makes those week 1s more fun. Like I got into powerlifting because I like being a bit of a bro lifter. I like pushing stuff, right? If I have to do my week 1 and everything's an RP 6 or below, I'm going to be bored. I'm going to get the session done. Like, not being funny, I'm on my week 1 of the block at the moment, and I did my squats, deadlift, and RDL yesterday in 45 minutes because I was like, well, this is too light. I'll make it harder for myself and just not rest and just go. We won't tell Lewis that. But like, I will rush through it if it's light, like every time, because it's not fun. I get that it's necessary. Again, do as I say, not as I do. But yeah, I think having accessories to push on the first week of the block makes it more fun and engaging.
Yeah. It's an enjoyment thing as well, but like just for me, it's just your priority realistically in the background should always be building muscle, especially as a powerlifter, right? There should never be a time where you need to take that foot off the pedal unless it's tapering into a comp, because that time the actual goal is that. But also think of it like, if you've done many week fours with a week full of pushing accessories, imagine what you'll do when you pull that back, right? But also, God, I just had the thought again and it's gone.
It's very late to anyone listening.
Oh, it's to do with programming, right? So if you're getting sore, you're probably doing too much. Like, yeah. It's not even like I should sleep more, I need to eat more. You're probably just objectively doing too much. Do less sets. Like I've got people that have busy lives, they do one set and they progress and they get bigger and they get stronger and they're not beat up as sore and their performance goes up and they're enjoying it more.
Yeah.
And they're doing one set and people will be like, well, that's one set. Like, how could they go? It does.
Yeah, 100%. But I think this also kind of links into what we were saying earlier and trying to just wrap it up into like a bit of a lesson to end the episode on, like people being scared to do less days. Like when I say to a lifter, right, we've tried 4 days, like you're not feeling recovered or you're struggling to do 4 days every single week, let's just do a couple blocks of 3 days a week and see what happens. A lot of the time they are having reservations about doing that because they feel like they need to do more. I've literally just had it with Lewis. So when I started with Lewis, I was doing 5 days, but one of those was just a super light bench day on a Friday evening, like literally just bench on his own. So he gave me 4 main days and then an optional accessory day. And to start with, I was doing the optional accessory day as like a 5th day. But then 2 weeks in, I was like, I think I need more time to relax. I need to stop. Like I need an extra night of no training, nothing. So we added those accessories onto a couple of other sessions. And I'm feeling so much better on 4 days a week. If you'd have asked me when I first started training if I'll cut back to 4 days, absolutely not. Because in my head, that wasn't being a powerlifter, that wasn't being an athlete, that wasn't optimal. That's not true.
Yeah, sometimes it's a psychological kind of, you need a break. Like you said, like I'm on an evening where I can just sit down in my house, have a nice cup of tea and do nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that is also another thing. And I think because of that mental fatigue shifting, you become mentally more clarity. Therefore, enjoyment. It's not always like a physical thing. Sometimes it is just, without sounding like I'm calling someone crazy, sometimes it is just about what's in your head. Sometimes it might just be, you know what, I don't want to do this.
But that's exactly why I did it. And my Tuesday session is now like, I'll do my squats, deadlift, RDLs here. I'll then go to the gym and do a 45-minute accessory session. And I train quickly. Like that session would probably take most people longer than 45 minutes. But I'm like, well, I'd rather just be in the gym like a little bit longer on a Tuesday, because then on a Wednesday, I have nothing that I have to do other than obviously work during the day. But in the evening, 4 or 5 p.m., whatever time I finish, I can just switch off and just literally sit in front of the TV all night, which very rare that I tend to do that, right? So I now have a night a week where I know mentally I just get a full break from everything. I always try and finish work a little bit earlier and just fully switch off. And I know that that's going to massively help my overall recovery, because like managing stress, recovery, everything is also important. And part of that is just having time to relax and do nothing.
I think it was you that made the post of sometimes just switch off. And sometimes you just have to switch off because you're so go. I have to do more. Prove this, prove that. Just chill. Just chill out. If you want to take anything from this podcast, less is more. Chill out. Oh, and grow up. Those three.
That's it. But yeah, this like just on the note as well, like I used to be really bad at relaxing, like really bad.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend said to me the other day, he was like, "You make me laugh so much." So I started watching Grey's Anatomy like about a month ago, and I'm already like 7.5 seasons in. He was like, "You're so funny because you go from refusing to watch TV at all because you think it's a waste of time and unproductive, then you'll start watching something and you're just like always sat watching it." And I was like, "Yeah, but I used to feel guilty because I felt like I had to be productive, whereas now I'm like, no, it's actually good to spend time relaxing." Like, granted, I might have taken it to the extreme lately, but it's good to spend time actually relaxing and just doing something where you don't have to think. And I don't enjoy reading, and I'm already going outside and getting fresh air on dog walks, and I'm already eating well. The thing that I was missing was just sitting down and relaxing in front of the TV and just switching off. Yeah. Just basically brain rot time. Like, my mind is, especially working in powerlifting as well, like my brain is always thinking of powerlifting. Not when I'm watching TV.
No, But again, it is one of those where it's like, I think we literally said, don't make powerlifting your life.
Yeah.
Especially if you're new. Like if you're new, this sport, you have nothing to prove in this sport. Just go in because you enjoy it. Remember, you do this because it looked fun. It looked like you'd enjoy it. So just kind of keep that as a core principle. Otherwise, you get to a point where you burn out and you're like, what the hell is fun, man? Like, I haven't experienced that in a while.
I also think this is potentially going to be a bit of a hot take and get me in trouble. Obviously, a lot of
get it out if that's the case.
Yeah, that's true. No, it's not that bad. Obviously, a lot of newer, specifically like in the uni scene, a lot of the time people love powerlifting. They decide to coach people, and they usually start coaching a few of their mates, and then they're making it like a little bit of a business, which is totally fine, like absolutely fine. But I do think it's worth also saying if you love this sport and you love being the powerlifting athlete, making it into your job is often not as great as you think it's going to be. Like, don't get me wrong, I love coaching, but I also worked as a trainer. That was my job. Like, I'm in the same industry, just doing something I'm more tailored to what I actually like, in more control of my schedule, you know? I think a lot of people get into coaching and they think it's going to be this wonderful thing where like they work for themselves and all these amazing things, but learning to switch off from powerlifting when it is your hobby and your job is so difficult. And I think that's something more people need to consider.
Yeah. So we definitely spoke about this in the last time I was on, about the idea of when you're getting into coaching, you need to care, but also, yeah, when powerlifting is everything, it takes it out of you, and you can learn to hate things so quickly. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't hate powerlifting, but if it was my everything all the time, I didn't do other things, I probably wouldn't do it at all. Like, it wouldn't be a break that I'm doing this after this comp. It would be, I'm not coming back. You know what I mean? Like, I coaching's fine. It's fun to coach it. Love coaching it. Love learning about it. But doing it and then having to coach it and then having to do other things to do with it, and then it's just a lot where you're sat there like, my life has just become this one sport that nobody cares about except from people who just like lifting colorful circles.
Yeah. And I've always been, like I said, I've worked in it. Like, I coached my friends for the first few years, whatever, but I've worked as a trainer / powerlifting coach pretty much the whole time, right? But I've also very much kept this strong identity of I am the athlete too. Like, I am an athlete. But I'd say over the last 18 months, specifically the last year, my coaching has grown to a point where like it's my main income now. Like, I'm so grateful for that. And when I had a meet earlier this year that didn't go how I wanted it to, I genuinely had this moment, bearing in mind like a big part of my identity is the athlete. I had this moment where I was like, maybe I'm done as the athlete. Maybe I just need to coach now. Maybe I can't do both. Maybe I'll just do the career side. And I do think if you have aspirations as the athlete in particular, you need to sit and think what you really want from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. I'd agree. I think don't go in with you'll get hit with a reality check real quick if you think you can do it all, and you think everything's going to be super peachy. And don't get me wrong, when you coach and you're an athlete as well, I mean, it might just be me, but I feel like you might relate to this. You put a lot of pressure on yourself because it's like, I have to set a standard. Like, I personally thought it was a stinker. Everybody else thought it was fine, of a meet. And I was like, yeah, I just feel like I've kind of just, yeah, the standard I set was not good. Like, it was not what I would expect. And everyone was like, I didn't think of that. I just thought my coach was on a platform that's pretty cool. And I heard that, and I'm like, what are you on about? But yeah, that in itself was kind of one of those things where you're like, oh damn, yes, I'm setting a standard, but I'm also setting a standard I didn't realize. You know what I mean? Like, to just get on the platform, to just try my best and still try and do well, even if I've missed a couple lifts or had a bad day.
We will obviously wrap up because I know you've got to go, but I think this also ties in nicely with what we said earlier about like the comparison thing, and people aren't paying that much attention to what you do. Like, your friends, whoever is there to support you, people watching on the live stream, whatever, they're just going to be proud that you're doing the sport. Like, balancing a sport as an adult is also hard.
Yeah.
They're not going to care that much. Like, they're not going to really probably even know if you've hit a PB or not. Like, no one's looking in that close detail. And I think one of the things that helps me a lot when it comes to like comp day nerves is I literally say to myself before the day, everyone has bad days. And if I have a bad day, only I'm going to remember. unless I literally bomb out and don't hit a single lift, maybe then other people make jokes about it, right? But generally speaking, no one is paying attention to what you're doing. Like, you are the only one that's hyper focusing on your own lifts, and everyone else is just kind of happy to see you there doing it and happy to see you having fun, hopefully too.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Remember, fun is kind of what it's meant to be about. And when it stops being fun, yeah, maybe that's when you need to reassess your approach.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot to end. Thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, of course.
Do you want to shout out your coaching pages?
Yeah, all coaching is at Quartz Strength Systems on Instagram. I do post a lot of content recently on there, so if you ever catch any of the reels and want to check it out, have a look there. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much.